We're rolling.
All right. Thanks for coming. Thanks for having me. We're going to be talking a little bit about practical OSINT. So how many of you are going to school for offensive security or defensive security? So forensics, okay? This can really be used in any one of the disciplines of information security in one way or another. The two that I most commonly see it used in are generally offensive or defensive security. But we'll get into that in a little bit on how you can leverage it for whatever you're doing. If you're doing digital forensics and you need to perform some sort of open source and have a lot more resources now than what we had when I was here. So be thankful for the staff that you have, knowledgeable staff, and the curriculums that they put in place for you. I'm a Christian husband, father, and I'm an unrelenting geek, and pretty much anything I do has some sort of a geek flair to it, and it drives my family crazy. Second Amendment supporter. You guys can read. I don't need to read all that stuff, right? But I love hacking competitions, and I'll be competing in another one this coming weekend at CarolinaCon, which is where I'm located in North Carolina. So, let's we'll go ahead and get started on into it. So, disclaimer: I've done a lot of OSINT. I don't know all the tools. I don't know all the resources, and I don't claim to, right? There are so many different resources out there that you can leverage that it's ridiculous, really. But I do know what works well, and I can show you what I've learned in my profession that can help you in yours. It's very critical to maintain ethics when you're looking at open source intelligence gathering. And so, as a result, I have a little agreement here. Basically, don't use this stuff for bad. You can completely take full ownership of an organization's network by information you can glean from outside of their network. Okay? I've done it on several occasions. You can really destroy someone's personal life by releasing information about them. They call it doxing most of the time, right? So you can really harm someone and their personal life by releasing too much information about them. So use it with care and with caution. We'll look at the agenda real fast. We'll do a couple terms to get started. I know Bill has given you guys some OSINT courses. Probably some of you have attended. But we're gonna do a little bit of just getting started. Some of the available tools, the common tools that are generally known, and then some of the efficient tools that I like to use when I'm doing an OSINT assessment to be able to wrap multiple things into fewer processes. Anytime we can save time, we save money. And we can save some frustration in clicking the same button multiple times, right? So then we'll do a little Q&A. Most likely, before we do the Q&A, we will cut camera because we will go through some OSINT. You guys will pick some targets, and I don't want that stuff recorded in the event that we come up with something that's extremely sensitive. Okay? Cool. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started here. So what is OSINT? It's open source intelligence, and so it's basically data collected from public sources, right? OSINT was a term that was generated by our military, but it's been around a lot longer than that. gathering information from open and public resources that can give you a more educated grasp of a scenario, of a layout of another opposing force. So OSINT can give you a lot of information without having to go directly to the source. Okay, that's the purpose of OSINT. And so it's been around for centuries, and we've seen it used a lot on the battlefield. Okay, anytime you can glean information about your enemy that can give you some sort of an advantage, or understand where their weakness is so that you can attack there, you're going to use it. So on the opposite side of OSINT, what's OPSEC? That's operational security or operations security. In the same fashion, OPSEC is the process of protecting your sensitive information, right? If you go out and post everything you do and every meal that you eat on Facebook, everyone's going to know what you like and what you dislike, right? Could people potentially use that against you? Yeah? Yeah. So OPSEC is making smarter decisions and maintaining some of the personal details that are sensitive to you. A lot of times we don't even think about this stuff. I know, and it's happened multiple times, but a few years back, there was a Facebook app created that asked pretty much every one of the security questions that you might have if you banked at a certain financial institution. And then they spread it out there, but then they targeted multiple individuals that they had already performed OSINT on and realized that that's where they banked. And they ended up netting, I think, around $12 million out of calling into the customer service, using the information that they obtained publicly off the internet and off of Facebook to reset questions, go through the process of getting the, I think someone is just taunting me with my phone. I need to silence it. But going through the process of getting all of your details and misusing them in a way that you probably wouldn't have them do. So, what did I just do? All right, back to this. All right. So, everyone understands what OSINT and OPSEC are, right? What would be the purpose of needing good OPSEC? Right? Would it be avoiding having information pulled against you? Right? They're kind of counter opposites. So if you want to think of them that way, so OSINT works best on people with bad OPSEC. Okay, that's the first kicker here. The downside is that most people really suck at OPSEC. Today we don't have a desire to have privacy. We want attention for things that we do, and so we post a lot of information that we probably wouldn't post otherwise. And as a result, that gets misused. Have you all heard of swatting? Right? Very dangerous situation there, right? We had one recently killed as a result of a little bit of social engineering, trying to get his phone number. Once they had his phone number, they were able to look up where he lived. Once they were able to look up where he lived, then they were able to send SWAT to his home. And so, like I said, this stuff can be used very, very dangerously. So kind of keep an understanding that that great power comes great responsibility, right? Everyone sees Spider-Man. It seems like something that's not a real dangerous scenario in most cases. But OSINT is something that if you become a penetration tester, or if you're doing blue team work or red team, You will generally use OSINT on any engagement where there's an external surface that you have to look after. On one side, as an offensive security practitioner, I'm going to look for any weaknesses that I can find. I'm going to look for individuals that I can target. I'm going to look for systems that may be vulnerable, and I'm going to build a path to take to try to ride into that organization. As a defensive practitioner, you can use OSINT in the same way to determine where others might see weaknesses against your organization, so you can shore those up and get them fixed before someone gets in that's not intended. All right, so there's all kinds of tools out there to collect OSINT. There's hundreds of tools, and we'll show you some of those, but we're going to go over about the top 5 or so, just to kind of give you a rundown of what kind of information they can collect, what they can do. And so one of the ones that you may have heard of is ReconNG, and this is by Tim Tomes, and he was at Black Hills then. I think he's at Invisium now. But great tool. Why do I keep clicking that? Okay, it's still up there. But yeah, so it's a great tool, and let's just take a look at it. See if I can switch over here. So if we just run ReconNG, I deleted all my API keys, so I didn't leak those on video. But so within ReconNG, see if I can resize this window because I'm having all kinds of display issues. Can you all see that? Yeah.
We can see it, but it's not showing up on the screen.
Okay.
Okay, now.
All right. So ReconNG has a lot of capabilities that it ties in and uses what are called API keys. And so you can go to different resources that ReconNG can pull from, and you can request an API key, and you can configure it within this tool, and it allows you to make more requests through the command line than what you would normally be able to make to a specific tool, a specific resource. But we'll look at show modules. And so this recon section is, for the most part, all open source intelligence resources that ReconNG can query. So Bing, LinkedIn, Jigsaw, let's see, Mail Tester. Some of these are basically ways to create user lists. Let's see, Pwn lists. I'm sure you've probably heard of that one. Built with, we'll show you what something's built with. Google Site API, Shodan, Netcraft. So you can go through with this one tool. Here's the ones I know you've seen, right? Flickr, Instagram, Picasa, Shodan, Twitter, YouTube. And so you can go through with this tool and query for an organization, for a specific individual. And so one tool has the ability to go through quite a bit of that stuff. So if we continue on, the next one that we'll look at is the Harvester. And so this one is a tool. I do not know why it keeps doing that. I'm having some technical difficulties. But is written by Christian, I'm going to butcher his last name, Martorella. And basically what the Harvester does is it'll go through and gather subdomains for an organization. So if you have a TLD, a top-level domain, the Harvester can go through and gather subdomains that you can look at. It'll gather email addresses. It'll gather virtual hosts, open ports, banners, employee names from different public resources. And so it can build a dossier of an organization pretty quickly. one thing that it does do that would be direct communication is when it pulls subdomains, it has to query the DNS servers. So if the DNS servers are on site for an organization or if they're in-house, then that action would not be technically OSINT. That would be requesting something from the organization. OSINT as a whole should be something that you can collect information from and never touch the organization that you're targeting. And that's another reason that it makes it really, really dangerous, right? Because as a defender, are you going to know if someone's doing OSINT on you? Generally not. And you can set up Google alerts and things of that sort to let you know if someone's searching for your organization. But most of these are not leveraging Google. This one does, but most of these do not. So, you have to kind of play that by ear. The next one that we'll look at, and that's a great tool. We can dig into it later. But the next one, if I can get my slide deck to work. I don't know what's going on here, Adrian.
What is happening?
It keeps jumping out of presenter view. I'm locked. All right. Anyways. Nope. Let me back up. See, it shows it up there, but nothing's changing. Joy. Hang on just a moment.
Will this be on final?
Yeah. So it says it's back. All right, I'm killing Outlook. Or PowerPoint. All right. Please. All right.
You might need to swap views.
All right, we're going again. All right. So, who's heard of Google Dorks? Okay, awesome. All right. How much have you used Google Dorks? You should use them every day.
Okay, we're on for the book on Google Docs.
Huh? Yeah.
For the book on Google Docs, does that count?
Yeah. Bill should know them better than most. He made you buy the book. That's a way to buffer your sales, huh, Bill? But yeah, so Google Dorks were originally made popular by Johnny Long with Hackers for Charity. You guys should know him. And so Johnny Long kind of made this popular, and now we have what's now the Google Hacking Database, and that is maintained over the guys at Offensive Security. And so I don't know if you can see that screen from there, but generally anyone in the community that finds a good Google Dork that could potentially allow you to compromise an organization can submit it for addition to the Google Hacking Database. And so there are some dangerous strings on there. A couple of these, file type, in URL, log, server software, and you can find some juicy info in there, like configuration info, cake PHP, in URL database.php, in-text db_password will have passwords in clear text in the document that it returns. Okay, and if people aren't configuring their web services correctly, if they're not limiting the permissions on specific files on their web servers, then they can leak that information without even realizing it. Once someone finds it, they can post it up here and everyone now has access to it. So a great source for OSINT. And I did it again. I don't understand how that's happening.
It looks fine on our side.
I know, but I can't advance the slide. All right, try it again. All right. Who's heard of Shodan? Yeah, all right. That's the fire hose of fun. It can be very dangerous too, right? Shodan allows you to understand what the external surface of some of the most vulnerable services are of your target without ever having to scan them. So if you didn't have something like Shodan, or if you didn't have that, what would you have to do? Right? What tool would you use? What would be a go-to tool to scan a network if you were trying to find Nmap, right? The go-to. Trinity used it, right? So when you look at Shodan, you have to take into consideration, okay, this tool allows me to gather information about a remote attack surface of an organization and never touch that organization. So, like one, let's look real fast. So if we look for Apache in the city of Huntington, right? You can, if you knew the IP scope of the organization you're looking at, that's just one small example of what Shodan can do. So if you're looking for an organization in Huntington that you know is running Apache, you may be able to find their server information here without necessarily them having a domain name attached to them. It's pretty valuable. Let's do this again. I don't know why it's failing, but it's trying me. All right, so one of the ones that is there's a trial version, or it used to be a trial version in Cali, is Maltego. Maltego is extremely powerful. The trial version or the free version of Maltego is very limited, though. Maltego works off what's called transforms, and so these offer real-time data that it's able to gather about relational information between different data sources. And when you get into it, it allows you to visualize what the relationships are between different resources that belong to the organization you're looking at, or person. You can go straight personal with it. So I don't do a lot of Maltego just because of the cost of the full version, but I have used it on several occasions as the professional version, and it is scary. It's flat out amazing, some of the stuff that you can pull out of it. If you're doing private investigative work, if you're doing, I could see it on a red team scale. I could see it as a pen tester. It's worth the money when it comes to OSINT and digging up information about the target organization. This was a search that I did on GitHub just this morning for OSINT. And there are 470 different tools out there that are open source and that are built, generally purpose-built for a specific OSINT path, right? Something that someone has found that another tool didn't do, so they wrote their own. And my buddies wrote the second one there. We'll look at it a little bit later, OSINT framework. All right, so there are many tools for OSINT. I've found several to be very valuable to me because they save me time and they save me the frustration of having to try to pull a lot of different information into a common format. So one of the things you're going to run into when you start doing digital forensics or blue teaming or red teaming or pen testing, you're going to have a lot of information that you're querying about a specific subject or target. And once you've collected all of that information from different sources, it's all in different formats, right? And now you have to try to get all of that stuff put back together. And that can be a true pain in the tail. It can waste a lot of time. So what we're going to do is we're going to look through the names of some of these tools, and then just kind of give you an understanding of why I use these regularly. And then we will most likely cut camera for a little bit and try some of them out. You guys can pick some targets, and we'll see what we can discover. Right? I heard that. We can do that. All right. So the first one, and you guys have probably met Lee Baird, is Discover. And so this is a set of scripts. Lee Baird is the curator and maintainer of this. And while it does do a lot of direct enumeration about an organization, the thing I love about Discover is that you can do fully open source intelligence gathering and reconnaissance, and it builds out a report. Now, you remember earlier when we were looking at the Harvester and we were looking at Recon NG? Okay. Discover does those for you, and I will show you that. Actually, we'll kick one off here. So Discover will launch hopefully sooner than later. And it is basically a wrapper script for some of the other tools that we've been looking at, and we'll help you automate that. So we may come back to this. Hopefully when we come back to it, it'll be ready. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm having all kinds of issues. Bill, did you shell my box before I got up here?
No.
But yeah, Discover is awesome. If you haven't taken a look at it, it's github.com/leebaird/discover.git. You can git clone that if you're on a Linux distribution, and otherwise you can download it. It's primarily all written in shell script, bash, and it runs really well. OSINT framework, written by my buddy Justin Nordine, and so you can install this locally as a service. It's a GitHub repo, or you can just use it on OSINT-framework.com, I believe. Let me pull it up here. Yeah, OSINT-framework.com. And so just a quick view of this. If you wanted to look for a specific username, right, you can look under search engines, or you can look under a specific site. Say you want to check out NameCheck. That link is right there for you, okay? You can go through and dig through it. If you want to look on Amazon wish list for Bill's Christmas wish list, right? You can use the links that are in this OSINT framework as a very fast way of going through, if you know what you're looking for, getting to those resources that are something that you want. This is all written in JavaScript, uses Node.js, and so it's a great tool. I use it quite a bit. again, one of those tools that you don't have to go through a bunch of bookmarks and try to figure out, oh, well, where did I see that before? Because as you go through it logically into what you're looking for and how specific you want that to be, OSINT framework just kind of lays that all out there for you. So the next one that I use pretty frequently, and I just recently found this, is CTFR. All right, so we talked about DNF or DNS, and if you are pulling DNS entries from an organization, what are you generally requesting those from? A DNS server, right? So if you're requesting them from a DNS server, that server could potentially be inside the organization that you're targeting, right? If you're going after an organization. So CTFR takes advantage of something different. It takes advantage of what is essentially SSL transparency reporting. So let's take a look at this real fast. This one's a fun one that we can show. Oh, look, it loaded up. We'll leave that running. All right, so we're going to look for a domain. We're going to use Marshall for right now.
No. You can't do Marshall.
Someone give me a domain. This is something anyone can pull up, so irongeek.com. All right. How many SSL certificates do you have?
I honestly do not know because I have a couple. Well, not the main. I know the site now uses the HTTPS if you choose to use it, but I don't know.
Okay, we'll take a look. So give it a D for the domain. You can give it tag O for the output file. And run this. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to query the just one. All right, we have to go after a bigger domain. So let's do Amazon, right?
Yeah, do it then. Go after Facebook.
All right, that works. They have all our information anyways, right? So any subdomains that Facebook has that has an SSL certificate that they have disclosed to the SSL transparency report and I didn't do an AXFR. I didn't touch their network, right? Generally, you have to have a misconfigured DNS server in order to be able to gather that many domain names that quickly. That, or you have to brute force them. You can use a tool like Fierce and go through and brute force with a dictionary attack and look for domains that are there. But I didn't touch one of their servers. I didn't send more than one request. Right? I love that tool. I've used it every assessment since I found it. Written by Sheila A. Berger, and that's an awesome tool. If you're going after an organization, you want to take a look at what their domains are. CTFR. All right, and again, Shodan is something that I use pretty frequently. There's really nothing else out there that I've found as effective as Shodan when it comes to trying to get an understanding of what your attack surface is for an organization. You get a free API key you can have assigned to you when you sign up for an account. With that API key, you can write your own tools in Python or whatever to query the Shodan API and pull information back. So if you have a specific CIDR range for the organization you're looking at. You can craft a request to Shodan's API, and it will return all that information to you in a parsable format that you can go through and continue your assessment. This is a GitHub repository that I found. It's called Awesome OSINT, and I've been really bad about having links and stuff in here, so I will post all those or get them to Bill so that you can go through these and dig through them. But this one, let me see if I have it pulled up my web server or web browser here. Yeah. So it's a GitHub repository, right? But it's essentially another list of links that you can use. So it kind of breaks it down by by higher level here at the top. But you can just dig right in. So if you wanted social media tools that go after Twitter users, well, here's multiple ones that can query the Twitter API, Facebook, right? You can go through and find the tool that you want to be able to go through and do targeted OSINT on a Facebook user. Now, where we see this as a red teamer, or even as a pen tester, right? If I'm going after an organization, I can have a pretty solid case before I ever touch that network, whether or not I'm going to be successful at penetrating that network. I'll go and I'll query organizations that may have information about them, and we'll see some more of that stuff from the harvester and the stuff that Discover pulls. We'll do that run before we finish here today. But after running that and going through and looking, so I'll go out to the website and look to see what jobs are available. Then I can go to LinkedIn and I can query LinkedIn for anyone that works at that organization, right? I can find someone that's close to the position that I'm going to be looking at, and I can look through their because everyone wants praise. I can go through and look through their resume, or basically, and find out, okay, what really have they been doing? So I can research that. I can look at what they're saying that they have knowledge in, and know that they probably have resources on their network in that specific area. I can run that CTFR. I can go through and pull all of the domain names to be able to see what may be a juicy target to go after. We can go through and if I find someone that I think may have credentials that are going to be beneficial to me from the outside, I dig into them on LinkedIn, and then I'd switch over to Facebook, to Twitter, to places where they're going to be less worried about their OPSEC. To be, basically direct targeting for a specific individual that I see will have the permissions that I want. And before long, you can go through and build a very good understanding of who this person is, what their likes and dislikes are, what kind of information they're willing to share with the public, whereas what they may be more withholding of. And as you get to that point, you could do a targeted spearfish against that individual with a great backstory that they're going to believe and work along with. You could spoof one of their coworkers that they're trusting of, that you've made that correlation of based on their social communications online. It's pretty dangerous, right? But with these resources, I mean, this is huge. There's all kinds of them here that you can look through, and it just continues. These are all the breakouts and I could scroll for days, right? All kinds of resources that you guys can use in open source intelligence gathering. And so one of the other ones that that has been pretty valuable is Intel Techniques by Michael Brazel. So I don't know if you've worked with this one at all, but it also is a great resource with multiple links. I thought I had it up here. Yeah. So this one is for Facebook, and you can basically specifically look for individuals that just have relationships with someone that you're trying to find. And you can leverage this to look for that chatty person that is one of their friends that has no permission set on their account, and will allow you to befriend her just so she can raise her number or him. And then once you are in that second level friendship relationship on Facebook with with your target, then you can gather a lot more information about them. People think that just because they have good permissions set on their social media accounts that other people can't and won't get into their stuff because they won't friend them. Well, that's not necessarily the case. If you trust friends of friends, then I'm just going to attack the weakest link. I'm not going to go after you if I know that you have better OPSEC. I'm going after the least OPSEC individual that I can find that has a relationship with you, and I'll get in that way. Yeah, so that's another good one. And he's got things in there for Facebook and Twitter and Tumblr and the whole deal. So this one has not been released yet. No, we'll show it real fast just to give him a quick props. But Will Genovese, Will. If you know him, if you don't, he's brilliant. And so he's writing a tool called Skip Tracer. And just a real fast teaser on this tool. Huh? No, we'll stop right after this. All right. I cannot see the bottom line on my screen, so.
We can't either.
That's probably best. Let's see. All right. Let me find a phone number real fast. Anyone want to offer up your phone number?
Try 911.
Hang on. All right, hang on a second. I'll type it in wrong. Should be it. Give me a name, and we'll look and see if there's any information out there on them. All right. So actually, it's going to go better if we do a phone number. Give me just a moment. I'm going to unshare my screen for just a second. Yeah, that would be the easy way, wouldn't it? All right. But basically, have you ever had a phone number call you and have you breathe or do something stupid, and you always want to try to figure out who that might be? Skip Tracer basically goes after about, I think, it's upwards of a dozen different databases that could maintain information on a specific number, and will help you do some very quick reconnaissance to find out who that might be. One other thing that I think it would be very, very beneficial for would be if you're trying to determine whether or not a specific number that's associated with an account, like maybe two-factor authentication, belongs to a specific individual, and allows you to build a better dossier that way. All right, just about there. Okay. Let me jump back in here. All right, here we go. Notice that name?
Yeah, I've heard it.
A few times, maybe.
You wrote this book that I had back then.
Oh, yeah. So, you can see it's just going through and querying multiple sources for any information on that, and it's pretty damaging, right? You got an address with multiple sources here associated directly with that number. So he hasn't released that yet, but once he does, I would look it up. Huh?
Where'd you get your copy? Are you testing? Is that what it is?
Yeah. He was gracious enough to let me kind of tease some people with it, but it's going to be a great tool. He's got some more work he wants to do before he releases it to the public.